Hi all, welcome to our fourth episode of the Conversation on Sustainable Mountain podcast, a podcast to talk about the sustainable development of the mountains. My name is Carla Lostrangio from the European Association on Local Innovation, and today I am here with Isabella Maglietti Smith. Hi, Isabella.
Hello, Carla.
So, Isabella, you are working for Origin for Sustainability, which is an association making research on products with geographic origins and promoting also those products. In Moving, you used the Foresight to investigate desired future for mountains, and this is what we are going to discuss about. To begin with, what is Foresight and how have you applied this concept in relation to mountain value chains? And also, what have you discovered?
Thank you for the question, Carla. So the idea of the Foresight exercise is to address long-term and sustainable trends, having the Horizon 2050 in mind, which may have less short-term priority in the eyes of local stakeholders. The general objective of this part of the Moving project that we were responsible for was to enable 22 local, 4 cross cases, and 1 European multi-stakeholder platform to engage in activities to find out about the future of mountain territories in the year 2050. The stakeholders in this activity, they do a forecast of the possible challenges that will shape the territories. And then they create a scenario and strategies to face those future challenges. But how do we find out about the future? So we have developed a Foresight exercise for one region, and this served as a template for the other regions. This Foresight exercise is a method that involves anticipating the future scenarios and trends. So each of the regions had a research team of 2 moving partners. These moving researchers, they organize in each region, they organize 3 workshops with people who are involved in activities related to the mountain territories. That could be farmers, producers, business providers, tourism sector people, but also policymakers, experts, and even youngsters and people interested in the future of the mountain territories. We had 254 participants from all over Europe, and 54 workshops were done in the different study cases. So we had the opportunity to make these people feel heard and to empower them. In each workshop, people were sitting together and were led by one of the research teams to find out the trends that will shape the future of the mountains. So the first question that we asked them was, what will be the situation of your region in 2050? This question brought to a rich discussions between the stakeholders, and we obtained different variables that could be climate change, demographic changes, and price trends. Stakeholders then voted what was the most uncertain and most important variable of this group of variables that they imagined. And these 2 variables, the most important and most uncertain, represented the common trends, so the most important trends for the future of the mountains in 2050. These future trends, we call them long-term forces. It could be a climate change market and also demographic trends and the tourism. The tourism is a key element in the mountain identity, and it also affects agriculture and natural resources. With these trends or long-term forces that we developed, we created a coordinate axis, like in math, and we described 4 scenarios with different interaction of the variables. And the stakeholders voted which was the most likely scenario for the future, so for the year 2050. As a result, we had 22 scenarios for the future of different regions in Europe.
Thanks, Isabella. That sounds very interesting, a very articulate exercise. Could you please provide just an example and also what type of outcomes did the region get out of this exercise?
To give you an example, I have the Tête de Moine PDO, Protected Denomination of Origin, which is a cheese from the Jura region in Switzerland. So in the Foresight group of this region, we had different visions, because the stakeholders were from different activities. Especially for climate change, we had the vision of the farmers The vision of the farmers was like a wait and see attitude. Also, we had people that were not concerned or not sensible for climate change, for example, downstream actors from the territory. And stakeholders that were outside of the sector, they were more sensitive to climate change. So we obtained key variables, which were extreme temperature events, changes in the rainfall, changes in the carbon footprint, or economic variables such as the quality of milk, cheese, the authenticity of the product, social variables, for example, the attractiveness of the professions in the territory. And with these variables, we took the long-term forces or trends for the future. And these long-term forces were the climate change and an uncertain social scenario for the future in the Jura territory. Then we described the possible scenarios, and the stakeholders chose the final scenario, such as a scenario with challenges in agriculture exacerbated by climate change and socioeconomic factors, an impact in cheese production, and an impact in the sustainability of the industry. And this will necessitate adaptive strategies for resilience in the territory.
Thanks, Isabella. And you said that overall you conducted 22 foresight exercises across mountain regions. I wonder whether there are some common threads that have emerged and which ones eventually.
After we obtained all these 22 study cases resulting from the exercise that all the regions did, we managed to group them in archetypes. So the archetypes are like models or prototypes. In our case, the archetypes are a way to describe a vision of the future. So we group the study cases into 4 archetypes. According to the different vision of the future, we name them the economy archetype, nature archetype, knowledge and innovation archetype, and niche and diversification archetype. The most frequent archetype that we see in the study cases was the economy-driven archetype. In this archetype, the long-term perspective of the value chain is secured through enough demand, good prices for the product, and fair remuneration for the producers. And the development is based on market growth and remunerative prices. I have a very good example for this, the study case in the Highlands for whiskey production. This is very characteristic of the economy-driven vision because the long-term forces, the 4 scenarios described in this study case were the environmental social attitude and the type of markets that we will have in the future. So a very globalized market, a less globalized market, a more socially conscious society, or more like an individualistic society. And the final scenario was a whiskey production that is environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable. And for example, the tourism, it includes UK visitors, but also international visitors. And the society is very aware of the environmental impacts of the tourism, and these impacts are minimized by campaigns, and the local working population begins to increase in this scenario with investment in infrastructure, for example, housing, local facilities, and wages.
Sounds wonderful. And so, if I'm not mistaken, also all of this great amount of work was presented and discussed in January this year in Brussels during this EU-level workshop. And during this workshop, you started from the Foresight exercises analysis, and you derived several strategic options for mountains. So my question here is, what are strategic options and how they can support mountain futures?
Strategic options are interventions that are defined by the people in a territory. So it could be initiatives or projects, and they are born to create a better future. And what they are not policies, but the policies can support or help in the implementations of the strategic options. So usually the strategic options, they emerge in a territory as a way to face a regional challenge. During the European workshop, we presented many strategic options, for example, the European Smart Village project. And others strategic options have been elaborated in working groups. So the working groups were divided by archetypes: economic, nature, knowledge and innovation, and niche and diversification. In each group, we discussed to create new strategic options. And for each of them, we try to define the challenges that they will face, the governance, the funding, and the different interventions that have to be done for these strategic options. These strategic options were created to face the future needs of the European mountains. Indeed, this workshop was targeted to imagine the future of mountains in 2050, and the participants were experts from different member states, working in different kinds of institutions. So what we did in Brussels and also throughout the project was to gather strategic options from different European regions to create a repertoire of strategic options as a way to first see which are the main challenges, and also to ask ourselves how to upgrade these strategic options to a European level. Is there a way to replicate the strategic options into other regions? So we have very interesting strategic options happening in a region, but can we take them as an example to be replicated in other European regions to face the same challenge that this region can have? And also about policies. Are there some policies that can help or support the development of these strategic options? For example, a very common challenge that the strategic options face is the climate change. We cannot face climate change as such, but we can face the consequences of climate change, mitigating its consequences. So we have one regional strategy that is water resource optimization for the future of mountain territories. Another one could be sustainable and adaptable food production to add value to the products or product promotion. Another very important regional strategy is to help in the infrastructure of the mountain territories, because we see a lack of transport and a lack of hospital services and school.
Thanks, Isabella. And the repertoire strategic option is also accessible. So thanks again for being here with us and sharing your thoughts. Our next and final episode will be about mountain policies and how to align them with local needs. So don't miss it. And thanks. Have a nice day.